Welcome, everyone, to Truth, Wellness, and Psychic Adventures. Get ready for unedited, unfiltered, and unbiased talks with Polly and Kristin, because life is unedited. Are you ready to experience your highest vibrational life, seek truth, and improve your overall wellness? You're in the right place. With tales of psychic experiences and expansive living, we are covering topics that bring the mystical into our everyday lives. Intrigued? Call us now at 1-800-930-2819. We are guiding callers toward their highest expression of self. You get not one, but two psychic life coaches. Your soul's sacred journey to truth is important to us. No question is too big or too small. Stay tuned. You're about to join in on a wild psychic ride. Truth, Wellness, and Psychic Adventures starts now. Welcome to Truth, Wellness, and Psychic Adventures with Kristin and Polly. Polly, how are you?
I'm so excited and inspired.
Same. Today, we have guests on the show, Common Mystics. We have Jennifer Jones and Jill Stanley. They have a podcast, Common Mystics. We've been following it for nearly 2 years now, and I have to tell you the joy it brings.
I love it. Okay, can you two say it just like you do on the podcast?
Sure.
Yeah, do that, because I love it. It's such a happy way to start the day.
Okay, Jen, you go. Okay. I'm Jennifer James.
I'm Jill Stanley.
We're psychics.
We're sisters.
We are common mystics. We find extraordinary stories in ordinary places. And today we are on with Kristin and Polly. Yay. Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.
I love that so much. Okay, I have to start. I know Kristin has like a million things, but I have to just say everything I've learned about American history, everything I learned from you guys.
Aww.
Thank you. Us too. It's a shame. Like I was telling Jennifer, I'm like, if we were educated in any way, this would not work. The fact that we're finding so much information that we had no idea was out there.
I feel like if you were teaching history at my high school, I would be so much more into it. Like the stories and the way like it all trickles in together. I love it.
It's so cool. And like the one that you did, this I think was my favorite, about the trains, the orphans on the trains.
Oh yeah.
That really was so powerful. And like it was just like there was so much that went on in our history that we don't, and if you think about like the people's lives, like, and Kristin, we know somebody that comes to the retreats, whose grandfather was on one of those trains.
No way, we do?
Yeah, starts with the M.
Oh, snap.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Cool? Yeah.
You know, about that episode, what I was most surprised about is the prejudice against redheads.
I remember that.
Who knew? I was like, my gosh, that's crazy. Yeah. But those are the little tidbits of information that we come across. They're like, boom, I had absolutely no idea.
Oh, well, I think the biggest aha for me, we're learning on every episode because we do the research, and the thing that we keep running into is that our own understanding is so simplified, is so black and white because we learn things in cliff notes, right? During school, you know, and when you actually learn about the people who lived during these times and everything that was going on, it's so much more nuanced and complicated. You can't just wipe it all with these broad strokes the way we want to. And I think that's a lesson for today. And, you know, learning about our own society and other people and, you know, different people who live differently than you. You can't just, you know, whitewash it with broad strokes, you know, just really contextualizing their experience is so powerful. And I think you always have to keep learning, not only about the past, but about your current present.
And be curious.
Yeah.
Yes.
Be curious.
But you guys are so good about...
Oh, go ahead, Polly.
Sorry. And then I'll let you talk, Kristin. But you guys are so good about giving life to, like, giving that energy, like pulling that energy into the experience, into the people. And you do touch on current affairs sometimes. Like you briefly touch on it. And I'm sure that you have to be somewhat politically whatever, but you briefly touch on it. But have you ever thought about doing an episode where it is more current to like bring something up, right, where people really feel like, okay, this is happening. This happened, you know, say like in the last 5 years or something, where people really connect to that because you guys bring things to life so well. Or is that outside of your plan, your scope?
What do you think, Jill?
And I cut off, so you have to answer because I was like, my internet went out for a minute.
I think, let me think about this for a minute. What we're really looking for is bringing to light things of the past. I think when you start researching more current stories and more current happenings, there's a greater responsibility, I think, to reach out to people and interview the people involved. Yeah. And we just don't have that kind of bandwidth. Every now and then we run into a story that is more recent, and we're like, whoa, in order to do this well, it takes so much more time. Do you know what I mean? Whereas and time interviewing and talking with people, you know, who have knowledge of you know, the current event. But the research from 100 years ago, we can do that in the middle of the night, you know, and still get up for work the next day and not have to coordinate interviews with people. So I guess that's one of the reasons.
In all fairness, when we come across a story that spirit drops in our lap, we feel like we have an obligation to tell that story, whether we want to or not. It's a contract that we make. And some of our recent stories that are very uncomfortable and cringe, and that people are still alive and these stories may affect their lives, we have reached out, but they ignore us. So I'm like, well, we tried, you know what I mean? Yes, so it's not, we really do make an effort, and we may hold a story to try to get a response from someone involved or someone's feedback that may have been affected by the story, but they don't respond to us. So it's kind of good, it's kind of bad, but it's just like, that's what it is.
That's very interesting, because I know you had one, I think, about a physician and his children were still alive or something that you reached out to.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we did reach out to them. Yeah, they did not respond. But, Fair enough. And there's also a man who was mob affiliated, right, Jill? Didn't we reach out to someone affiliated with the mafia? They didn't get back to us either.
But he was on other podcasts.
I know.
So I was like, why not?
There's still hope. We still have hope that we might talk to someone from the mafia. I don't know. We'll see.
Wow. What I love is that you come in and you have a purpose, and you're giving a voice to someone who can no longer state their story or their cause or what happened to them. It's so fascinating, and it's got to be so liberating for everyone involved to finally have the truth known.
Well, you know, that wasn't an original concept of our podcast. You know, originally, Jill, do you want us to talk about like our upbringing? Because I think that really kind of formed who we are.
Mm-hmm. Yes. How did it all begin?
How did it all begin?
Well, for fun, because we're strange people, we grew up in a household where this type of metaphysical and spirituality was really just a part of the fabric of our lives. It was just the setting in which we grew up, because our grandmother and our mother's family, who basically raised us because we really didn't know our dad's side of the family, were Eastern Europeans, and our grandma was very, very Roman Catholic, but Eastern European Roman Catholic, which really infuses a lot of spiritualism. And so that's the backdrop by which we had grown up. So for fun, if our mom was sad or depressed, we would take her to a cemetery or a spiritually charged location and get our spideys on, and we would just have fun. And then after our mother had passed away, it's something that Jennifer and I continued to do together for sister time.
So we would just get in the car and try to find spirits, try to get lost and find spiritually charged locations. And for a long time, I was not as into it as Jill. Jill has kind of dragged me into accepting It's true. It's true.
As a good sister does.
Jill was born this way. Like, you all have to understand, I'm 7 years older and our household was chaotic and broken. Mom, single mother, working 2-3 jobs. And I was, kind of in charge. So I had to be very logical. And I put that part of myself in a little box for a very long time. But Jill came out of the womb different. Like, as a very young child, she was different. You were connected.
I know that sounds cool, but I was literally like a feral child. I roamed the streets. No one cared. No one knew where I was. I can be gone from like 8 in the morning to like 1 in the morning. No one would care. They would not look for me. I would just like come in and out. So like, I know that sounds like, oh, fun, but it was like, no, I was just like on my own. So because of that, I developed my own. I was more connected to spirit than with people, because the people around me were like, they were busy. They had things to go
that had to be hard going to school. Like, were your elementary years a little bit different because of that?
My elementary years was different for many reasons. So I was always had a 40-year-old's body. Literally, if you listen to the Aunt Jeannie episode, like you will know that I've always been like in my mid 40s. That's like, so like me and my teacher wore the same dress on picture day when I was like in the 6th grade. True story. So that was one reason. Also, true story. It's true. I can't read or write phonetically. So I had a different learning experience, which is funny because my sister Jennifer had gone into the field of learning how to work with people that have
special education. So
when she was doing her testing, she would I would be like her test subject, and she would just laugh and laugh. She'd be like, "Oh, it's so
come on, you make me sound terrible. You are textbook." Yeah, well, Jill's the reason why I went into education, because I was like, I don't know what's happening here, but I need information because this is different, And
you have 2 master's degrees in education, right?
I do. Yeah, I do.
That's impressive.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. But so Jill was always different. And, I think, tell them about your imaginary friends. Like, even from a very young age, Jill would just play by herself, but she'd be talking to people who weren't there.
Sure. Lady Timmy and Alice. Timmy, I didn't see them. I just felt them. I knew they were there. I would have conversations with them and I would play with them. And I always felt like they were there.
But we used to ask Jill, like, well, what is Timmy like? What is Alice like? And she had so much information about their character and the way they were. Like, it wasn't just like a flat, it was like there was some serious like development here in these characters or these people that she would talk to. But anyway, so Jill was always different. I'm very logical, very, I was not that way, but I had a really strong relationship with our grandmother. And grandma, like Jill said, she was very Roman Catholic. She used to go to church every day and pray the rosary twice a day, but she also did earth magic, like in front of us in the kitchen. And in addition, she saw dead people. So they would often come to her for prayers. So you would just be like sitting with grandma. She might be sewing or cooking or always at the kitchen table. And she would just get up and say, I have to go pray for someone. Someone just came to me. I have to go pray. And you wouldn't see anybody, but she would see them. She would see them come to her, and then she would go retreat and she would say prayers for the soul who just came to her. So, and our mother did astrology, and she obviously exposed us to astrology. She did everybody's charts, but she also exposed us to an array of faith-based practices and divination tools. So we had pendulums, we have ruins, we had tarot cards in the house. There were always psychics coming over, to the point where we had psychics kind of like in the family. Like, they came to my wedding. They were like at all the events, you know what I mean? Like psychics and faith healers. And if in Chicago, there are a lot of different churches. Anytime there was like a crying Madonna, we were there. Like, we went on pilgrimages to the shrines, to the churches. So, we were exposed to all of that. So when we were young
when
adults.
You had friends come over, did you have to kind of prep them like, okay, here's what's going to go on in my house. It's a little bit different. Or did you just say, come on in and let's see how this goes?
Our friends, to be honest, we didn't tell them the kooky, weird stuff. We didn't tell them about the spells, but they were like, our friends just knew the way we grew up and they were into it and they loved it. Like my friend Lisa, I still have the same childhood best friends that I had growing up. And so after our grandma died, we were telling stories because grandma always told us never tell. So now that grandma had passed, we're like telling stories. And Lisa's like, why didn't you ever tell me that? And I'm like, she told me not to tell you, like specifically. So like our friends really, our mom was a very special woman and she really mothered the neighborhood. So everyone loved coming over.
Aww.
Like, yeah, not just for that, but like for food. Like if their mom was out of town, they were just at our house. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. So we were talking about the podcast and how that came about. And so, years later, after grandma had died, that's when I started to really accept that I did have abilities, and I started having experiences that were real aha moments, things that weren't just coincidental, that I couldn't write off as coincidence. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then around 2019, Jill and I were in the car. We were in central Illinois somewhere, driving around trying to find spirits. We were in Seneca. And we were doing what we do. We were walking around and really validating for each other. So I would get something, I'd be like, I'm getting this. And she'd say, I'm getting this. And, it's cool to have a buddy and do this. Otherwise, you got no way to know if what you're picking up on is real, quote unquote. So we were in Seneca, Illinois. We run into this church, St. Patrick's Church, and we run into this nearby cemetery, and we're picking up on a lot of deaths, a lot of tragedy, a lot of premature deaths. So we get on our phone and, we start kind of just researching on the fly, Jill, wouldn't you say?
Mm-hmm.
And
I was looking up tragedies in Seneca, Illinois, and like a list of things came up. And then I was like, well, what if I did that for another town in Illinois? And it didn't have the same response. Like the Google search was different. So we're like, this is something here specific to this land.
So we poked around a little more, and we found that in 1680, a Franciscan priest was traveling through that area with an exploratory party, and he and his group was ambushed and killed by the Kickapoo people. And we found a little shrine to that event and to this priest. And as we're standing there, I say to Jill, this could be a podcast, And then that's when we saw, Jill, a hawk and two baby hawks, right, in the tree. Mm-hmm. And Jill had established. Mm-hmm. A hawk is a symbol for our mother. Go ahead, Jill.
Oh, that was what I was going to say. So the fact that a hawk flew over and then had little babies with it, I was like, oh, that's it. That's our podcast.
Oh my gosh, I just got goosebumps.
But does that bring you comfort, you guys? I mean, I just had to say that, like having that awareness, like that connection, that awareness, it brings you so much comfort in life because you're like, you don't feel like you're going through this by yourself. Like, that there's so much support, unseen support, and it's going to come in so many different ways. I love that.
It's so true. It's so true. It's to the point where we, talk to our people on the other side, our angels and, guardian angels, spirit guides. Yeah. I kind of use that vocabulary interchangeably because we don't really know, there are people who have different theories about different types of energy that comes through. We know we're connecting with our mom who's passed, our grandmother, our aunt. We know we're connecting with other entities too. I'm just going to keep talking because I know Jill kind of cut up for a minute. Sorry.
No problem. I did want to ask you.
Yeah.
So you work in education currently, like that's your day job.
Yeah.
Do your coworkers know about this side of you? Have you kind of blended it all in, and how did that work?
Yeah, some of my coworkers do know, but it's not something that I advertise, right? I don't talk about it at work. That just wouldn't be appropriate. My work has nothing to do with this side of me, but I am publicly out there. Like, my face is out there. I have a podcast that's, broadcast all over the world. So people know. And if they come to me, I will tell them that. But what I don't do is I don't advertise when I'm using my abilities in the moment, because of course you use your abilities throughout every aspect of your life, right? And so when I'm in a meeting beforehand, I will call on my angels. I will call on St. Michael. I will call on all my helpers if I know this is going to be a tough meeting. And in the moment, I'm sometimes channeling, like like asking like that. I don't advertise. That's happening though. And Jill's line of work, I know you do the same thing in your line of work. Right.
Absolutely. It's funny. Like I said, I don't advertise it, but I tend to make close relationships with colleagues, and I'll ask people if I can read for them just to practice or freshen up on my abilities. And my boss makes fun of me all the time. He's a supporter of what we're doing. And he wants to read the book and things of that nature. So we're very lucky that in our professional lives, because we are already successful at what we do, and we already made a name for ourselves, that when we were comfortable enough to be like, and this is what we also do, and this is who we are as people, we didn't lose any credibility in our chosen fields.
I love that. What about your other two sisters? Are they doing any kind of spiritual work publicly, or what is their position on it?
I believe that, I'm not sure. I don't want to speak for them because it changes. I know that we all have abilities. Both our other sisters are very spiritually inclined, and they use their abilities personally for themselves, as we all do, because it's just another sense that we have. I'm not sure if they are out there promoting themselves to do service work for others in the community. So I don't want to say either way. I know one has, but then she was like, I don't have time right now. So it's back and forth, though.
Yeah. It's life.
Got it. Okay. I have to talk about one of my favorite episodes on your podcast. And this is because Polly and I always say, like, we don't want to do anything dark, like any kind of, any darkness we don't want. And I was like, Polly, I know that like exorcisms and all that stuff is just dark, but I got to tell you, I was listening to this podcast and it was hilarious. The way you took the issue of an exorcism and possession, which is scary and dark, and made it so freaking hilarious, I was blown away. My favorite was when you referenced like Mother, the nuns that were in there, and how like the father just kind of put all the tax on the nuns, like, you go get them, you get that demon out of there. And it was like so well done. So I just want to compliment you, the way you portray different issues that could be considered like dark and scary. Your personality swings it into the best entertainment ever. Is that easy for you guys to just roll with? Is it nice because you kind of play with each other as sisters? We're just jokingly anyway.
Yeah. I mean, this is stuff that scared us growing up. Like there were like, these were real topics that we really believed were true, and they scared us. But that was really a fun episode because it was Jennifer and I just having fun. Like that's literally that's who we are as people. The hefty nun, that was rude. They didn't have to say that.
That was so rude.
Like, really, Father?
Well, just the way it's like the best storytelling, because everything you said, I caught a huge visual for it. Like it was the screenplay was rolling in my head. And I was like, this is the best.
There's a couple episodes that the uncut version that Jennifer edited we were laughing so hard. I cannot believe she cut it to make an episode. There's a couple of them that like, I feel like we should just post the unedited version because we were laughing so hard.
Oh my God. Yeah. Like a blooper reel. We would have.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
But that's the best thing is you guys make it real. Right? Like you are funny, because a lot of people wouldn't cross the line of talking about a hefty nun because they don't want to offend a hefty nun. Right?
We didn't say it though. He requested hefty nuns. I thought that was wrong. He was like, we're going to need some thick ass nuns for this one.
Right. Well, the way it was phrased in the actual literature was that the priest collected the strongest women in the convent. Well, we know what that means. We were both hefty growing up. I get that. Like in school, anytime the custodian needed some help, they'd, haul up all the big kids. And I was a big girl and Jill was a big girl. And so this is something that we lived. And so we could just put ourselves in the situation of the poor chunky nuns who are suddenly called upon to sit on this possessed woman. Right. And she's flying around. I mean, yeah, I think it was easy in some regard to put ourselves in that situation.
Oh, completely. If I'm going in for an exorcism, I'm not taking the petite chick with me. I'm telling my people, we're going in.
Right. You can see all sides.
Yeah.
Oh, I wanted to go back to your original Kristin So our first story that we had done, it was Gertie out of Nashville, Michigan, and we were able to give voice to her and her story specifically. So after we did our first episode, which was an experiment for Jennifer and I to do this format, and Gertie came through with flying colors and we're like, wow, this is working. We added to our intention every episode after that to give voice to the voiceless. And years later, actually earlier this year, Jennifer and I had found this random psychic, and that one of her friends had gone to and recommended to us. And we went in and she said that the spirits are on the other side, are lifting us up and helping us become successful because they appreciate us giving them a voice, which we never thought about before. To be honest, we were just doing this work because we work 2 jobs. We're doing our Patreon page, our readings for people, the podcast, that we haven't really took a breath to assess the situation. So that was so positive, and it just is so much bigger than us. It's about people's lives, and not only the lives of people we're touching on earth, but the souls of the people we're able to connect with on the other side. So it's really a blessing.
That is
I
amazing.
love that. Okay.
The power that you get from that kind of backing is going to take you next level. Like, it's already, you can tell you guys have grown so much just when, we're fangirling all over you the last year and a half. It's been so fun to watch. Like the growth and everything. So we're going to take a quick break and then we'll be right back. Truth, Wellness, and Psychic Adventures. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Truth, Wellness, and Psychic Adventures with Kristin and Polly. And today we have Common Mystics, Jen and Jill, with us, and we're going to continue on with them. You guys, I wanted to ask you if you have any personal meditation practice that you do every day religiously, that's something that really you're fine-tuned in and it works for you, and if you would share that with us.
So I started recently, and I know this is very boring, but I started recently saying the rosary. I have my grandmother's old rosary, one, like she had like thousands of them, but I have one that's glowing in the dark. So I use and I say like the rosary every night, just for the people. I've been praying for the children of the world just because it's been such a hard time. And I've been praying for myself. And, it's just been so contentious lately, just around the world, I just started doing that lately. So that is one that I'm actively trying to put out. But also when I exercise is when I get my meditation. So when I'm walking, when I'm driving, I'm usually in a meditative state. Jen, how about you?
I'm pretty good about praying every night, before I sleep. I'm worse at giving myself that space and time in the mornings. A lot of times I'll want to reach for the phone and then I'm bombarded with social media. So I'm working at giving myself just that space, just with my coffee, with my thoughts, and just let them come and go, and then use that time for my affirmations, my my mantras, my affirmations, my meditation. But I'm still working at it. I am a work in progress. I have not mastered that. I'm not a good meditator. But I do yoga twice a week, and that helps.
Gotcha. As a matter of fact, because of that, Jen and I were having a conversation like a month ago, and what we're starting to conceptualize is on our off weeks, at least one of our off weeks, because we drop episodes every other week. We want to have an intention and a guided meditation. So there will be hopefully a network of different meditations on our feed that you can be like, if you're looking for connection to abundance, or if you're looking for to release old anxieties, we were thinking about addressing that, dropping it, and then regrouping with our Patreon group and our level 4 patrons. We meet every month and we have an online chat going where they can say their experience and how that meditation helped them and go from there. So that's what we're working on. We haven't recorded it yet, but we were brainstorming just the other day the different types of subjects that we wanted. So there'll be a whole catalog of them. So you don't have to listen to everyone, but you could, if you're having a bad day and you want to cut someone, you can be like, how can I release the aggravation in this moment? Right?
I love
that because it's like you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You're not at ground zero. You can tap into some skill sets and resources that are out there. And I also feel like the rosary isn't boring. It's like tried and true. It's what works. And if it feels right, then we go for it. I'm always fascinated with everyone's different like meditation practice. Polly and I tapped her first, like, what do you do years ago? And she was a big, on the trail, like hiking trail, meditation kind of person. Prior to that, I was so limited. I thought like, oh no, I have to be sitting Zen with the candles and everything. And just like Jill said, like what I found is when I'm out walking or doing something and my body is kind of like on autopilot, then it frees up my mind to be like, okay, now I can connect. I can focus.
Jennifer, I was surprised you didn't like when Jen and her best friend thrifts, they go thrift store shopping. In the Chicagoland area, they have the best thrift stores. Like my friends just went over there for the weekend to go thrifting with her. But when she's going through the racks, she's meditating. It just,
like I'll get information, just from it. Yeah, I agree with you. I went on a walk this morning without my headphones and it was so cleansing because I live right on the forest preserve. So on my trail, I'm around, nature. I've had experiences jogging, bike riding, walking, like there's something about that physical motion. It's so much easier, I think, for me to tap into spirit and to be receptive at those moments.
Yes. Agreed. And I wonder how much of it is like, I'm not on my phone. I'm not trying to make a meal or drive a kid somewhere. I'm just finally like taking a hot minute to zen out and empty my thoughts. I wonder.
Yeah.
Okay. I have a question because in the beginning, I remember bizarre things, but in the beginning of your podcast, like many years ago, I think you guys said you didn't meditate.
No,
we're lazy.
We are the laziest psychics in the entire world.
Oh, no, you're not. That is my tagline.
All right. We're lazy psychics, but we're busy, like professional people.
That literally
right?
is what I say. Yeah. That is so funny.
And we've listened and subscribed to like these real, like lofty, high thinking psychics that we admire. And their mantra is meditate, meditate, meditate. And I'm like, just like eating a Twinkie. Like I don't have the self-control to sit down and meditate for an hour every day.
Self-discipline.
Exactly.
Yeah. The self-discipline. Yeah.
So that's when we were able to identify when spirit was talking to me is like, oh, when I'm driving in the car or when I'm jogging and so I'm like, I'm kind of meditating. And so that's when Jennifer and I are like, well, we're doing it. Like, we're doing it too.
I think you guys have evolved a little bit because as we do, because I think from that one episode that I listened to where you were saying you don't meditate, like the meditative practice, but then listening to you today, you've obviously embraced the idea of meditation, how it can help and how you can help other people through it on your Patreon page. So there has been an evolution of sorts of how you guys are serving people, how you're serving yourself and others.
I think that's true.
I think that's true. And I think that's something we want to continue. We want to continue growing, not just as podcasters, but as people, as sisters, developing relationships as wives and friends and community members. I feel like if we feel like we're not, especially Jennifer, if Jennifer isn't learning or evolving, she's a mess. She'll be like, I need to do something.
Yeah. I get really stir crazy. I get stir crazy if I don't have enough change. If I feel like I'm in a rut, it's bad. Like I have to do something. So
I love that. That's very forward moving of you. If only I know a handful of people who could benefit from that quality. We'll have to connect you and see if we'll take a little bit of that from you and give it to them.
I have
Do you guys
plenty.
have any like tips and tricks that you suggest when people are like, gosh, I think I'm getting spirit communicating with me more. Is it really that? What am I doing? Like someone who's just thinking maybe this is how their skill set is going. What would you suggest to grow that?
So there's two things that we are doing. Jen and I created an assessment last summer to work with people to see how we actually were very thoughtful about how we're doing this work consciously. In addition to a meditative practice, which is great. We're not saying don't do it, but we're saying we're lazy and we hadn't been. So without that practice, we're like, how is this working for us? And how can we arm other people with these experiences and what to look for? So we created an assessment, and Jen last winter had assessed not only our tier 4 patrons, but we opened it to the public, to anyone to sign up to have the assessment done and to go through a 5-week class with Jennifer. Now we're changing. We want to continue doing that, but also Jennifer's opening herself up, her schedule up to work one-on-one to assess a person. So I do more of the readings. Jennifer has been at work, so I'm really taking advantage of her over the summer, her being in education. And I'm really asking her to put her education out there to work with people to say, hey, how am I doing this? I'm having these experiences. Jennifer assessing them and saying, oh, well, this is what's happening. This is where you are on this spectrum. And this is my prescription for you to move forward. You can work with me on it, or I can give you tools to do it by yourself. So that's what we're developing right now.
This is one of my favorite things about you guys is sometimes this industry is so like woo woo and oh, whatever you feel, that's what's going on. And you guys have actually put in place like a system of forward movement, step by step. How can I get the data? Where do I go from here? And I love that. How can folks find that? Like, is it best to go to your website, or how would you steer them?
Probably email us, I would think. Yeah. Don't you think at this point, Jill?
Exactly. You can email us at commonmystics@gmail.com. Just right now, we're in the middle of changing our imagery and rebranding. So our website is under construction. So that's not the best place to go. But if you reach out to us on either Messenger, on commonmysticspod at FaceMirror, the socials, or at our email address, commonmystics@gmail.com.
I think I'm going to add to what Jill said. What we created is kind of a framework for understanding psychic development and spiritual development. And from that framework that we created based on our own experiences, we developed an assessment, because I am at heart a teacher, right? And so we created the understanding, we outlined the understanding, like, okay, how does this translate? How can we use this information that we believe is true based on our experiences to get information from other people to help them along this framework, right? So that was kind of the idea behind the assessment. But in addition to that, I will also say believing is a choice. Believing that you have abilities is a choice. And you can choose to say that's not real, or you can choose to say it is real. And the more you believe, you choose to believe that it's real, the more you forge a path in that grass, just like walking across a meadow. Right? And the more you walk across the same path in a meadow, the easier it is to see that path and to get where you want to go. Right? So it's the same thing. Believing is a choice. And then the other thing I will say is that it's very hard to believe when you surround yourself with people who don't believe. You have to surround yourself. And that doesn't necessarily mean the physical people in your life, although that's helpful, right? If the physical people in your physical environment believe like you. But these days we have different online environments, right? Different experiences that we can tap into virtually. So find your people, find your tribe. And I think so far that's one of the things that I'm most proud of, is that, we have this Patreon page and we have different levels. And our most popular level is our top level, because it is the group that we meet with every month. And every month we have FaceTime with them. And there are people maybe who don't have people in their lives who believe the same things. And it's a safe place to learn, and then a community that you can tap into when you're having questions about your experiences. So choose to believe and find your tribe.
Love it. That. Choose to believe. That's huge. That's your choice. And that can be applicable in so many areas of your life.
Mm-hmm. Right. Exactly.
Yep. I want to talk about spells. So that was, you do have an episode, and it is, and do you know what I'm talking about when you did a little well, we won't call it a love spell, but it was like a little relationship going on. And I mean, there was a full spell situation, and then you guys shocked yourselves that it worked. And then that was another one where I don't think I've laughed that much in a long time. So can you tell us a little bit about spells? And was that something that your mom and your grandma did? And so maybe it just felt normal to you. And then because it's always funny to me, I have 3 teenagers, and the stuff that we do in-house and that you say all the time, you just feel like is normal. And then you go out into the real world and you're like, oh, people don't eat like this at the table, or they don't say things like that. This isn't apropos. So tell us a little bit about spells.
You want to go first?
Sure. So growing up, grandma did spells. Mom did spells. I remember one time I went into my grandma's kitchen and she looked at me and said, and basically told me that someone had put the evil eye on me. I didn't know I was a kid. I didn't know anything about it. And then right in front of me, she did a spell to release me from that negative energy that I didn't even realize was attached to me. That's just one example. During my mother's divorce from our father, she was trying to cut energy that was attached to that very negative situation. And I came home from school and my mother is systematically sweeping the front of the house with a broom and lye soap, like away from the house. And
she was outside doing this. So Jennifer was like, oh, hi, crazy. What's going on?
This is what we're doing now. So that was a spell, like to clean the house of negative energy. Jill, you have other examples from childhood of spells that we've run into, and undoing spells. We've also witnessed that as well.
I was a bad teenager. And I came home one day and my aunt told me that her friend did a spell for me. And she showed me this little bounded up Saint Michael statue, and it was bound up with tape. And I was like, oh, that's great. And so I told my mom, and we had my little cousin, poor thing, had to steal that statue from her mother. And my mom cleaned it off and undid the spell that was meant to keep Saint Michael from protecting me. Ooh. Yeah. So that happened. Also, going through my mom's things that before she had passed away, she kind of had the feeling like she needed to give me things that she thought were going to be important to me, that she wanted to give me. And one of those things is a spell. And I have it in my she shed, and it's garlic and different Catholic imagery and a horseshoe, and it's bound up. And I know it's a spell. I just don't know what it was for. But she had that for herself. And I just love it. I just love looking at it. I love holding it, knowing that she put so much energy into creating this. And I think that when the first time that Jen and I were really, both of us, in a very desperate situation, was the first time, and I think I was a young adult, and we pulled up our sleeves and we're like, you know what? We need Jesus. We need help. This is not going away on its own. And Jennifer and I, in a desperate state, went knee to knee, went on the very early archaic internet with dial-up and research, and made ourselves a spell and
protection.
When we were doing it, we knew it was working. Like it was rhythmic. We were in sync. We were knee to knee. And then we did a ritual and we buried it in the backyard, and it really worked for like 20 years. And that's when we knew Jen and I were powerful together. Mm-hmm. It wasn't until after our mom died, we knew we were functional together, and we had to work out all our childhood trauma, and we knew we weren't going to let each other down. And then from there, we knew we're just stronger together. She brings things that I could never do. And that I feel like everything I do is better with Jennifer involved. And I hope you feel that I bring something to the table too. Okay. But together, we just know that it's stronger. So even when someone asks us or like emails us, like, we need this, it's not me doing it alone. I work with Jennifer to get the blessing. We put it together, we craft it, and we'll do a ritual together for our patrons who need it. Is there something you want to add?
Well, yeah. And the other thing I'll say is a lot of people think, oh, spells, that's witchcraft. That's the devil's work, right? But we were raised Catholic, with the incense and the body of Christ, like the transforming bread into Jesus, right? And the transformation of the wine, right? Those are spells, those are ritualistic spells, right? You really believe that those things are happening if you really, buy into the Catholic Church. So, and then we have the example of our grandmother who was very, very Catholic and did the earth magic. So to us, there's no conflict there. Like it's all, as long as your intention is good, as long as you want to protect and bring good to all, if that's your intention, then I think you're in the light. It's when you are working, to maybe harm, to control, maybe, to serve someone, maybe you're more base needs, maybe ego driven desires. That's when I think, you're kind of crossing, I don't know, into territory maybe you don't want to be in if you want to be a light worker, right? I think for us, we really got into the spell work because it's been modeled for us, because we didn't grow up with the stigma against doing spell work. And also because we realized that together we're very powerful. And
this past Saturday, we had our bestest friends, like our chosen family with us. And we drunk manifested over margaritas. We were just sitting down drinking, be like, how does it feel to get what you want? How does it feel to be in that situation?
Yes.
That's so good.
And with your best friends,
we're running out of time, but I would have you guys concoct a spell on how to keep your house
all free of.
Oh my gosh.
Oh no.
You'll do that on the Patreon page.
Yes, okay. We'll put in a request for that. I love your vibe of spirituality and Christianity. Like to me, the two just go so well hand in hand.
Absolutely.
It's confusing when people get so angry by a conflicting thought, because it's like we literally grew up lighting candles. A birthday cake, you light the candles with the intention to set up the birthday person to make a wish. That's a spell. That's what you're doing. And it's out of love, and it's out of the goodness for that person. Right. Yes. So that's what we recognize, that there are different spells and there are different kinds of controls. And we actually check each other like, okay, why are we doing this? Right. And we have those really thoughtful conversations before we just delve into these things. Because I'll tell you, our mom was not exactly happy with us when we're like, we just did a spell. And that
no,
worked.
She wasn't.
She had a real talking to with us about, okay, what did you say? What was the intention and how that worked? So we are very aware that like it needs to be very specific and not ego based.
Oh, yes. That's good information. That's good information for the people. Okay. Common Mystics, tell the listeners how they can connect with you, where they can find you and follow you.
Sure. Well, check out our website, which is under construction, at commonmystics.net. Follow us on all our socials at commonmysticspod. Please email us at commonmystics@gmail.com. Follow, like, download, subscribe to our podcast on everywhere you're listening to your favorite pods, Common Mystics Podcast.
And check out, do it. They are so good. They are awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for being here. Go ahead.
I also just want to plug our Patreon page too. So if people are looking for a community or extra content, they can always go to patreon.com and find Common Mystics there as well. And you two are just so lovely. Thank you so much for this conversation.
Thank you so much.
Oh, we'll have to reach out to you, but we really want to do and go to Jerome with you. Yeah. And we have another person in mind for all of us to get together.
Jerome, Arizona. Have you been yet?
Oh, I have not. I used to live in Arizona, so I'm excited.
Yes. It's really fun. Super fun.
We'll probably have to go on Halloween or something equally as fantastic.
We need a Halloween episode.
We do.
Yes. We've got you.
We'll be in touch. We'll be planning that. All right. Thank you guys so much for joining us.
Thank you guys so much.
Common Mystics.
Thank you.
Kristin, how do they reach you? I mean, how do people find you?
Find me at www.garagepilates.net, on Instagram at garagepilates, and then Polly?
PollyWirum.com, and we have an Instagram
truth.wellness.psychic.
That's why Kristin's in charge of everything.
All right, you guys, have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for calling into Truth, Wellness, and Psychic Adventures. We are psychic life coaches, Polly and Kristin, taking your calls at 1-800-930-2819 every second and fourth Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific on transformationtalkradio.com. To work with us individually, visit pollywirum.com and garagepilates.net. Follow us on Instagram at truth.wellness.psychic and at Polly_Wirum and at Garage Pilates. We can't wait to share the next episode with you.